might just kick off the far end with Andrew Jasmin, who has a very different business model and has been involved in launching the conversation. And in just 2 years, he was telling me the fantastic news, they've just cracked the 1 million uniques, which I think probably deserves a round of applause. In fact, it definitely does, because I'd love to crack 1 million uniques. And he has a very different business model, and it's come from a very different space, but it is really all about really quality content and quality journalism. So maybe you can just kick us off with where your models come from and how it fits into the world that we live in at the moment.
Well, thanks very much for that. First of all, I should mention that Alan and I are colleagues. We worked together in Melbourne, and Alan edited the Sydney Morning Herald, and I edited The Age in Melbourne. And then they had one of those reverse takeovers where Rural Press took over Fairfax and decided they wanted their own people in. We both left, and Alan will tell you what he did. And I made a decision that what I really wanted to do was to not focus so much on my past, which is largely editing newspapers. I used to also edit websites until I got to Fairfax when they banned editors from editing websites. That's another story. I was trying to work out where the good stuff in terms of journalism was going to come from in the future, bearing in mind that the business model, which has been going for 150 odd years in newspapers, is falling apart. So I wanted to think through that, and I was invited by University of Melbourne to have a desk, which helped me in terms of just having somewhere to work. And as I wandered around the university, it struck me that actually some of the smartest people I'd ever met, and this includes Nobel laureates, were within the university, but they kind of were sat behind a paywall of their own, which is sometimes called the ivory tower, where they actually knew this great stuff. They had fantastic knowledge, fantastic research, great wisdom, but it just stayed within the ivory tower and wasn't getting out. And I just had one of those moments where I thought, you know, I bet there's a better way and something really quite exciting if I can connect the ivory tower with the public. And let's not forget the public, which is you and I, put something like 12 billion a year into universities. So we kind of owe, or they owe us big time. And I was thinking, well, if I could connect them back to the public, then we could actually get some of that benefit back to the community. So that was the idea. We have, the way our business model works is we have 25 people working for us here. And we've just launched on the 16th of May in the UK. We have another 12 people there. Of those, we have 18 editors. The 18 editors work with 6,000 specialists who are all academics. So every one of those people in our virtual newsroom is a specialist. We have no general reporters. Every one of them knows deeply about their subject matter, whatever that is. And we connect them with an editor, and then we put it out directly onto the website. So that's how the model works. We've not spent a penny on above-the-line marketing. It's all been social media, viral, search engine optimized site. We built the site from scratch using something called Ruby on Rails developers. It's a brilliant site, and we've just cracked 1 million. Anyway, that's our model. In terms of funding, I'll just finish on this. The bulk of our funding comes from universities. We also get support from corporates, and particularly, I'm delighted to be able to say, support from the Commonwealth Bank, who've just been a brilliant partner for us. We also have a number of other corporates, I won't run through them all. And also we get support from the Higher Education Department in Canberra and the Victorian Department of Innovation. That's seed funding to help us get going.
Great, thanks. And as we were chatting before, you mentioned one of the gun things behind your site is the fact that, you know, you're building the trust back into the journalistic space where there's a lot of content out there. So you've got disclosure statements on all of your articles. and it's coming from experts who are truly experts in the space that they're writing in, which is fantastic. So.
Jeff, I'm happy to take up the entire 45 minutes.
That's
because I reckon what we're doing is truly fucking amazing. Right?
Well, I'd love to let you take up the full 45 minutes, but seeing you don't have any advertising on your site and it's being funded by universities, we probably need to move into this commercial side.
But just to your point, my whole rationale, and I'll stop now, is to try to rebuild trust in content. Because right now, I think that's the big issue facing readers. We all now have more information than ever before. It's actually called infomania. It's a disease. And nobody quite knows where to go. And the trick is to find new ways of doing journalism that actually can rebuild that trust. And you've mentioned disclosure statements we do. People can only write if they really know about this subject matter. There's disclosure of conflicts, so that we know if you're actually a member of a party or anything that might actually colour the way you think. The idea is to have independent journalism which you can actually trust and use. And that, to me, is the valuable stuff.
Great.
I also think the thing to think about with these guys is this idea that, look, for the last 50, 70 years, depending on which school of advertising you went to, the media and advertising industry has built this enormous infrastructure around itself, which it believes, unless you participate in it, you don't qualify as a real media site and you don't qualify as a real advertiser. And it's just garbage. Because the new world is going to be born of sites like this, where we sponsor the site, we write them one check once a year. We start when they're little and they've got no followers, and then they get to 1 million. And people see your sponsorship badge, they see your association, you accrue value through that. And this idea that the only advertising is transactional advertising is garbage in this new world. And there's just enormous value in these new media models.
And you were saying before that, we got up here, the ad agencies don't get that to a large degree.
I think it's always hard to generalise, because there are ad agencies and there are media agencies out there. I think the problem is we've spent 70 odd years building a way of doing business where absolutely brilliant, smart media people and advertising people are incented on either making TV ads, because they cost a lot and are worth a lot, or they're incented on commission basis on very traditional models of assessing the performance of a publication. And it's one of the big problems that newsprint has today. It's falling circ, but the value is still there. How do you charge for it? And I think in these new worlds, whether it's like the Messenger Collective or these guys or even print in the future, I look at it and go, how would a media agency sell me content, community, and quality of journalism? How do I buy that? Because they can't earn their money selling me that in their current business models with their current staffing structures and stuff. So, the new breed agencies that will emerge in the future, they'll start to look more like a William Morris agency or something like that, where they're brokering you ideas, talent, community, quality content, a lot of other things.
And Lisa, you're right into that. Lisa loves swimming upstream, loves creating big ideas, loves selling stuff before she's made it. And I think, from what we were talking about before, you have done some work with Andy. So maybe you can talk us through that. Apparently you stalked him for some considerable time until he responded.
I did, and now we're besties.
So that was with ideas, that was about community, that was about content. Can you just talk us through a little bit of that?
Look, I've had my business for 11 and a half years, and I'm quite counterintuitive to what most people do. I kind of have a lot of big ideas, most of them fail. I always just write something pretty much on the back of an envelope, and then I shop it around and see, does someone actually want to back this? Does someone believe in the vision enough? And once that happens, then I actually proceed with the idea. In the case of the Collective magazine, which I think you all have in front of you, I came up with this idea, and I did stalk Andy for quite some time, and then someone said to me, well, Andy's really big on social media, so 10 o'clock one night, I sent him a tweet, and he responded within a few minutes, I think, and said, yeah, let's have a coffee tomorrow. And and as an entrepreneur who's got a really big idea, that for me was quite extraordinary, to go and have a meeting with the CMO of Combank, who knew nothing about me but really believed in the vision. And so I mean, I will be forever grateful to Andy for that and to CommBank because, you know, it's only with that kind of passion behind an entrepreneur's vision that it's able to proceed. So I really, it was just an idea at the time, the magazine, and really the whole build now isn't about the magazine, and I think that's where a lot of current owners of the media are potentially getting it wrong, and we're seeing a lot of closures all over the place. My background is not magazines. I'm coming from a completely naive space, which I think can sometimes work quite well. And what it's about is really believing in creating something that's inspirational, and it's about creating a community, and it's about having the magazine as the cornerstone, and then really looking at all the different extensions. And at the moment we have 18 confirmed extensions, from events to social media to sampling to all sorts of stuff, and we're in 13 countries. So we're trying to do things very, very differently. I don't believe at all that a straight ad on a page does anything for anyone.
So how does content and journalism fit into your model?
So I guess for me, and again, coming from a naive standpoint, I just knew what I wanted as an entrepreneur, and I knew what I felt was missing in the marketplace as a consumer of a lot of media. And for me, there was a lot of salacious gossip and a lot of vacuous content out there. And so I didn't even know about syndication, or that, you know, the majority of magazines actually syndicate content from overseas or whatever. I just knew that I wanted to personally, when I say personally, my team, interview every single person that's in the magazine and have a lot of authenticity around that. And that it would always be the story behind the story. I didn't want to just tell this is this fabulous company. I wanted to get behind it, and why was this company born, and what was the passion behind it, and what are the financials. So it's inspirational, but then it's aspirational. So then it's the how-tos and really unpacking that. And I think that's why the community has, I've never seen, honestly, I've written so many books, and in comparison, they are all absolute failures. I've never been a part of or seen anything that has just exploded like the collective has. And I think it's literally because people want that genuine content. And possibly that's just because I'm an entrepreneur, and so I can drive it from that sort of a standpoint as opposed to just, yeah.